If you are over 60, plain water is still important. But plain water is no longer the whole story because after 60, circulation changes, blood vessels stiffen, nitric oxide falls, the brain gets less efficient blood flow, and you feel it in ordinary ways. Cold hands, heavy legs, afternoon fog, that strange fatigue after doing almost nothing. Now imagine something different. Imagine waking up in 7 days with a clearer head, steadier energy, and warmer hands. Imagine walking farther, thinking faster, and feeling less puffy by evening. That is the goal of this video. Not magic, not a miracle drink, just 5 smart upgrades to ordinary water. And one detail decides whether they help your vessels or just pass through you. Stay with me because near the end I will show you that detail. Miss it. And even the best drink here can disappoint you. Listen. Dr. William Li often says food speaks to our biology. I agree with that completely. What you drink can either support blood flow or do almost nothing for it. And after 60, almost nothing is not good enough because the body changes quietly. Your kidneys handle fluid differently. Your blood vessels respond more slowly. Your cells hold on to inflammation longer than they used to. So yes, drink water. But if you want better circulation, better pressure control, and better energy, water needs allies. Today I will rank 5 of them. We will start at number 5 and finish with the strongest one. And no, this is not about replacing medication. If you take blood pressure drugs, water pills, blood thinners, or diabetes medication, talk with your doctor before changing your routine. Natural tools are still active tools. All right, let's begin with number 5, coconut water. Most people think of coconut water as a beach drink. Refreshing, slightly sweet, pleasant, but not exactly serious. That is a mistake, because the real strength of coconut water is potassium. And potassium matters more with age than many people realize. Here is why. Sodium tends to pull fluid into the bloodstream. Too much of it can increase pressure inside the vessel wall. Potassium helps balance that effect. It encourages the body to let go of excess sodium. And when that balance improves, pressure often improves too. That matters if your mornings begin with swollen fingers. It matters if your blood pressure climbs after salty meals. And it matters if your heart feels like it works too hard. Some small studies suggest coconut water may support healthier blood pressure levels. Not in everyone and not overnight, but enough to make it worth your attention. Now, here's the practical move. Use unsweetened coconut water in the morning, not the sugary kind. 1 modest glass is enough. Drink it chilled or room temperature. Then pair it with a small handful of pumpkin seeds. That combination is smarter than it sounds because now you are not only getting fluid, you are getting potassium, magnesium, and a little support for vascular tone. And that is the pattern for this whole video. We are not chasing hype. We are giving your circulation raw materials it actually uses. By the way, if you already drink coconut water, tell me how you use it. Morning, afternoon, or after a walk. I read those comments carefully because real routines matter more than perfect theory. Here's the brain rest part. Think of your blood vessels like garden hoses. If the fluid is balanced, the hose stays flexible. If the chemistry is off, the hose gets cranky, narrow, less cooperative. Coconut water is not the strongest tool on this list, but as a gentle upgrade to plain water, it deserves a place. Now, number 4 gets more interesting. Water with tart cherry juice. This one is especially useful if your body feels older at night than it does in the morning. Achy joints, restless sleep, stiff muscles, that wired but tired feeling. Listen, poor circulation and poor sleep often travel together, and chronic inflammation sits right in the middle. Tart cherry helps because it brings 2 useful compounds into the picture: anthocyanins, which are natural plant pigments, and natural melatonin. Anthocyanins help calm inflammatory stress. Melatonin helps support the timing of sleep. And when sleep improves, blood pressure regulation often improves too. The brain clears waste more efficiently. The nervous system stops acting like it is under attack. That is huge after 60, because many people are not just dehydrated, they are inflamed, overstimulated, and under-rested. Here's the practical move. Add a small amount of unsweetened tart cherry juice to water in the evening. Not a giant glass, just enough to flavor it deeply. If the label says sweetened, put it back. You want the fruit compounds, not a sugar spike. And if sleep is already fragile, use this about 2 hours before bed, not right before bed. A little earlier works better for most people. Now the reset. Picture blood flow as traffic in a city. Inflammation is road construction. Everything slows down. Signals get messy. Pressure builds where it should not. Tart cherry does not rebuild the whole city, but it may help remove some of the cones. That matters. And here is something else. A lot of people over 60 say, "I sleep enough." But when you ask better questions, the picture changes. Do you wake up stiff? Do you wake up tired? Do you wake up 2 or 3 times? That is not fully restorative sleep. And circulation never fully recovers in that state. So if joint discomfort and sleep problems are both on your list, tart cherry water is a smart number 4. Not flashy, effective. Now number 3, water with green tea. This one is for the person who says, "My body is okay, but my brain feels slower." You forget names. You lose the thread in conversation. You stand up and wonder why you entered the room. That is not always just aging. Sometimes it is circulation. Sometimes it is inflammation. Often it is both. Green tea matters because of a compound called EGCG. That mouthful, yes, is worth knowing. It helps support the inner lining of blood vessels. And when that lining behaves better, vessels relax more easily. That means better flow, less strain on the heart, better delivery to the brain, a little more oxygen reaching the tissue that needs it most. But here is where most people ruin it. They use boiling water. Too hot and the flavor gets harsh. More important, the delicate compounds are not treated gently. So do this instead. Use hot water, but not furious water. About 80 degrees Celsius is a good target. If you do not measure temperature, here is the simple version. Boil the water, then let it sit briefly before pouring. Steep the tea gently, then add a squeeze of fresh lemon. That small step matters. Lemon can help preserve and improve the usefulness of the tea's polyphenols. In plain English, it helps your body get more from the cup. And do not dump in sugar. That defeats the point. Now, quick pause. How many of you drink green tea already? And be honest, do you add sugar, honey, or nothing at all? Write that in the comments. I asked because one tiny habit often changes the whole result. Here is the brain rest. Think of the blood vessels in your brain as tiny adjustable tunnels. They're supposed to open and respond all day long. With age, that responsiveness gets dull. Green tea, used properly, helps nudge it back in the right direction. And that can show up as something very ordinary: a steadier mood, less afternoon fog, better concentration during small tasks. Nothing dramatic, but very real. Now, before we go to number 2, remember the open loop from the beginning. There is one mistake that can make these drinks underperform. I have not forgotten it. We are getting there. First, number 2, hibiscus water or hibiscus tea. If you struggle with blood pressure, this is one of the most respected drinks in the natural toolbox. Not because it is trendy, because the research around it is stronger than many people expect. Hibiscus appears to support blood pressure through several pathways. It may help blood vessels relax. It may support kidney handling of fluid, and it may modestly improve cholesterol patterns in some people. In practical terms, many adults notice the biggest benefit through the top blood pressure number. That is the pressure created when the heart pushes blood forward, and after 60, that number often climbs first. Why? Because the vessel wall is less elastic than it used to be, so the heart pushes into a stiffer system. Hibiscus can help soften that problem at least a little, and a little matters, because small changes repeated daily become meaningful. Here's the practical move. Use hibiscus tea consistently, not randomly. 2 to 3 cups across the day is a common approach. You can drink it warm or cold. And if you want a small companion food, pair it with 1 square of dark chocolate. Not half the bar, 1 square. Why that pairing? Because dark cocoa brings flavonols which also support vessel function. Used sensibly, the two can complement each other. But there is a caution here. If you already take medication for blood pressure or a water pill, monitor carefully. Hibiscus may add to the effect. That is good if it is planned, not good if it catches you by surprise. So if you feel elated, weak, or unusually tired, step back and talk with your clinician. That is not fear. That is precision. Now, the reset. Imagine your arteries as piano strings. Too tight and every note is sharp. Too stiff and every heartbeat feels harder than it should. Hibiscus helps bring some softness back into the instrument, and that is why it lands at number 2. Very good for pressure, very good for consistency, but not number 1, because number 1 addresses something even deeper, nitric oxide. And that brings us to beetroot water. This is the strongest drink on today's list. For one reason, beets are rich in natural nitrates. Your body can convert those nitrates into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is one of the key signals that tells blood vessels to open. Here's the problem. As you age, that signal gets weaker. In fact, by the time many people are over 60, nitric oxide production is significantly lower than it was in youth. And when that drops, several things happen at once. Blood vessels become less flexible. Muscles get less blood during activity. The brain gets less support during stress. Endurance falls even during simple movement. That is why some people say, "I'm hydrated, but I still feel flat." Hydration is there. Vascular signaling is not. Beetroot helps address that gap. Not by forcing the body, by giving it material it can turn into a useful signal. Here is the practical move. Use beet juice diluted with water or a plain beet powder mixed into water. No added sugar, no dessert version. Morning works well for many people, so does about 1 to 2 hours before a walk. And yes, if you notice a little pink in the urine later, that can happen. It is usually harmless. People panic about that. Then they realize it was just the beets. Now listen carefully. This is not about chasing an athletic performance trick. This is about daily function, better walking stamina, better vessel flexibility, better delivery of oxygen where it is needed. And that can feel like getting part of yourself back. More willingness to move, more confidence on stairs, less of that heavy dragging sensation in the legs. This is why beetroot takes number 1. It speaks directly to nitric oxide, and nitric oxide speaks directly to circulation. Now let me tie the whole ranking together. Number 5, coconut water supports fluid and mineral balance. Number 4, tart cherry water helps when inflammation and poor sleep are stealing circulation. Number 3, green tea water supports vessel function and brain blood flow. Number 2, hibiscus is especially strong for pressure support. And number 1, beetroot helps restore the nitric oxide signal that aging slowly turns down. But now we need to stop signal because for a large number of people, all 5 drinks can disappoint. Not because they are useless, because they are used in the wrong way. Here's the mistake. People add good drinks to a bad fluid pattern. They sip too little in the first half of the day, then too much at night. They use healthy drinks, but keep eating heavy sodium all day. They take a nitroteric drink, then use strong antibacterial mouthwash constantly. And that matters more than most people know because the mouth contains bacteria that help convert dietary nitrates into nitric oxide. Wipe them out all the time, and beetroot may do much less. That is the secret detail I wanted you to hear. The drink is not the whole protocol. Timing matters. Pairing matters. Your daily chemistry matters. So here is the practical framework. Front load your fluids earlier in the day. Use coconut water or green tea in the morning. Use hibiscus around the daytime window, especially if pressure tends to run high. Use tart cherry later. closer to evening if sleep and inflammation are issues. Use beetroot when you want circulation support for movement, energy, or mental sharpness. And do not use all 5 at full strength on the same day. That is not smarter. That is just messy. Choose the one that fits your biggest problem, then build from there. Also, remember medication interactions. If you take blood thinners, ask before using tart cherry regularly. If you take blood pressure medication, monitor when using hibiscus. If you have kidney disease, be careful with high potassium drinks like coconut water. And if you have diabetes, read every label twice. Hidden sugar changes everything. This is where people say, but it's natural. Yes, and so is caffeine, and so is poison ivy. Natural does not mean automatic safety. It means respect the tool. Here's a simple 7-day experiment. Pick one drink from this list, match it to your main issue. Use it consistently for 1 week at the right time without sugar, and notice 3 things: your morning energy, your evening swelling, and how your head feels between lunch and dinner. That is where you often feel the difference first. Not in the lab, in life. And I want to ask you something. Which problem bothers you most right now? High blood pressure, brain fog, poor sleep, or low energy? Write just one phrase in the comments. That helps me know what to cover next, and it helps other viewers see they are not alone. If this video gave you a clearer plan, press like. That simple action helps more adults find reliable health education without the nonsense. And if you want the next step, subscribe, because in the next video, I want to show you the foods that quietly weaken nitric oxide after 60, even when the rest of your diet looks healthy. One more thing before we close. Independence in later life is not built from one dramatic decision. It is built from small signals your body receives every day: a better drink, a better walk, a better night of sleep. That is how energy returns. That is how movement feels safer. That is how circulation supports the life you still want to live. Plain water still matters. Of course it does. But after 60, plain water alone is often too passive. Your blood vessels need information, not just volume. Give them potassium when sodium is the problem. Give them polyphenols when inflammation is the problem. Give them nitric oxide support when stiffness is the problem. And suddenly, hydration starts doing more than filling the tank. It starts helping the whole system work better. That is the difference.